Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something really fascinating.
We really are. It's an ancient system, the Taoist five-element framework.
And we're talking about fire, earth, wood, water, and metal. But, not just as like parts of the planet.
No, not at all. The sources we looked at treat them as a kind of dynamic blueprint for everything, for the human body, the mind, the whole spectrum of our emotions.
It's like an operational manual, right? The documents get into how these elements create and restrict each other.
Exactly. And how that maps directly onto our organs, our thought processes, and maybe most importantly, how certain emotions are physically tied to our internal systems.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to pull out the functional knowledge here.
Yeah.
How does the system define creation and control?
And how does understanding that, say, your deepest fears are linked to your kidneys, or your anger is linked to your liver, how can that actually help you deal with modern life?
Right. And that builds to our big question for you, the listener. How does this elemental map connect to this idea of alternative reality?
It connects in a really profound way. The laws that govern the elements, they also govern our perception.
Mm.
So maybe we should start there, where those are foundational rules.
Yeah, let's do it. So we have the five: fire, earth, wood, water, and metal. And you said they're governed by three cycles.
That's right, three main laws of interaction.
Okay, so let's unpack the first one, the law of creation. Our sources say this is the generative cycle. It's all about harmony and balance.
Correct. This is how the elements support each other, how they feed each other. It's actually pretty intuitive if you visualize it.
Like wood feeds fire.
Exactly. Wood fuels a fire. The fire burns down, creates ash, which is earth. Earth gets compressed over time. It forms metal.
Okay.
And then metal, when it's cool, it collects condensation, dew. That's water.
And water, of course, nourishes wood. It makes things grow.
And there you have it. A perfect, continuous loop of support. Each part needs the one before it to flourish.
That makes a lot of sense. But if you only have support, if you only have creation, I imagine things could get out of control.
They absolutely would.
Yeah.
And that's why the second law is so important, the law of control.
The restrictive cycle.
Yes, this is all about regulation, making sure no single element becomes too powerful and just takes over the whole system.
So it provides the checks and balances. How does that work?
Well, think about it. Water controls fire. It puts it out.
Okay.
Fire controls metal. It melts it, reshapes it. Metal, like an axe, controls wood. It chops it down.
And wood controls earth.
Tree roots.
Yeah.
They hold the soil together, prevent erosion, give it structure. And then earth controls water, like the banks of a river or a dam. It channels it.
So creation for harmony, control for regulation. But the sources point to a third law as being really the key to understanding imbalance and illness.
Yes, and this is the crucial part for applying it to our own lives. It's the law of reverse restriction.
Okay, what happens here?
This law basically says that if one element becomes overwhelmingly strong, the element that's supposed to control it gets weakened and controlled in reverse.
Wait, say that again. So the thing that's supposed to be fixing the problem actually gets damaged by it.
Precisely. Let's use that dam example. Earth is supposed to control water with a dam.
Right.
But if the water element becomes a massive flood, or in human terms, just overwhelming chronic fear, the earth dam can't hold. It cracks. The control flips.
So the flood of water actually destroys the dam.
Yes. It erodes the earth, so the body's own natural way of restoring order gets hijacked, and it ends up making the original imbalance even worse.
Wow. That's the engine of self-sabotage right there. It explains burnout, where the more you try to fix something, the weaker your own systems get.
That's the perfect modern application.
Yeah.
And understanding these three laws, creation, control, and reverse restriction, is the foundation for everything else.
Okay, so let's make that transition from natural laws to the self, because this is where these ideas stop being abstract and become a real map of the human body.
They really do. Let's start with fire. It's the center, warmth, life force. Physically, it's linked to the heart and arteries, the blood, and the small intestine. It's all about circulation.
And fire seems to be about communication too, right? The sources mention the tongue for speech.
Yes, and it also governs two really important controllers, the pericardium, or heart controller, and something called the triple heater.
The triple heater, that's not something you hear about in a standard biology class.
No, but functionally, it's understood to manage our endocrine glands. Hormone regulation. So fire is really managing circulation, communication, and metabolism, the body's pace.
Got it. What about earth? That sounds very grounding.
It is. Earth is our central processing. Spleen, pancreas, stomach, it's tied to our muscle tissue. Its whole job is about assimilation and nourishment.
Which is why anxiety and worry, the earth emotions, so often show up as stomach problems.
It's a direct link. The sources also mention the spleen's role in the lymphatic system, so earth is also deep immune support.
Moving on to wood, this sounds like growth, planning, moving forward.
And that's exactly what it is. Wood is the liver, the body's general filtering blood, planning. It's also the gallbladder, the nerves, and our eyesight.
Nerves and eyesight, so for strategy and execution.
Exactly. You need clear vision and a steady nervous system to move forward with a plan.
Okay, what about metal? It sounds like a boundary.
It is. Metal is the boundary between you and the outside world. It governs the lung and large intestine, what we take in and what we let go.
And physically.
It's the skin, our connective tissue or fasciae, and our senses of smell and touch. It's our sensitive protective barrier.
And finally, water. The deep stuff.
The deepest. Water is our fundamental structure, the kidney and bladder system. It's linked to bone, marrow, and teeth, and also to hearing. It's our reservoir of vital energy, our willpower.
The physical map is incredible, but then the sources add another layer, the mental one. They use these I statements to define our self-talk.
Yes, it's a way of categorizing our consciousness. Fire is defined as I know. This is high spirit, wisdom, authority.
Earth is I do. That's practicality, cleverness, that's supportive, nurturing energy.
And wood is I think. This covers pure intelligence. A clear mind, understanding linear thought.
I want to pause there for a second because wood is I think, but the sources say water is I dream. What's the difference?
That's a great question. Wood's I think is analytical. It's logical. It plans the route from A to B.
The strategist.
The strategist, yes. Water's I dream is inspiration. It's creativity, vision. It's nonlinear. It doesn't figure out the path. It comes up with the destination in the first place.
So you need water to know why you're going somewhere and wood to figure out how to get there.
Perfectly put. And to round it out, metal is I feel. Sensitivity, emotional maturity, grace, the capacity to really process our experiences.
Which brings us directly to emotion, because this is where the link between how we feel and our physical health becomes so clear.
It really does. The sources list these very specific negative emotions that, when they're chronic, directly harm the corresponding organ system. For wood, it's anger, aggression, arrogance, all that harms the liver.
And fear is water. So fear, terror, paranoia, that drains the kidney system, our foundational energy.
Exactly. Metal is grief, sadness, depression, which impacts the lungs, your ability to let go. Fire, being overactive, is rage, hastiness, hatred, which puts a huge strain on the heart.
And poor Earth seems to carry the heaviest load. Anxiety, worry, distrust, guilt, all hitting the spleen and stomach.
It's the element that gets bogged down by overcaring. But the system doesn't just give us the problem, it also gives us the antidote.
The positive emotions for each one.
The flip side of the coin. For fire, rage is balanced by joy, gratitude, warmth. For earth, worry is balanced by satisfaction, inner peace, trust.
Wood's aggression is countered by kindness and generosity.
And metal's grief is met with courage, honesty, emotional maturity. While water's deep fear is answered by gentleness, caring, and this idea of love wisdom.
And this leads to what might be the most practical tool in the whole system, the path to control. It's not just about feeling more positive, it's about strategically using one element to fix another.
Yes. This is applying the control cycle directly to your own mind. Let's take an example. If you're stuck in anger, which is a wood pattern,
Okay.
the sources suggest you use the positive qualities of metal to treat it.
Why metal?
Because metal controls wood. Remember the axe.
I see. So you use metal's positive strength like sensitivity and emotional maturity to quite literally chop down the out-of-control anger.
You're deploying an emotional countermeasure based on the system's own logic. It's brilliant.
Okay, give me another one.
How about grief or depression? That's a metal pattern. The sources suggest treating that with love wisdom, which is the highest expression of water.
Hang on, but water doesn't control metal. Fire controls metal.
You're right. This is a different strategy.
Yeah, what's happening here?
Think about the creation cycle. Metal creates water, so this is using the flow, the generative mechanism. The idea is that stagnant grief in the metal element needs to be released to flow into the next thing.
So by applying love wisdom from the water element, you're encouraging that stuck metal energy to complete its cycle and move on, rather than just stagnating.
Exactly. It's a highly specific emotional prescription. It's targeted.
You're using the system's logic to engineer an emotional change. It's not just try to be happy, it's apply this specific quality here.
And that precise strategic application is the bridge to the final concepts in our sources: consciousness and alternative realities.
Right. This is where it gets really big picture and challenges our basic assumptions about reality itself. We're moving from our internal state to our external understanding.
Because the whole five-element system is flexible,
Yeah.
right? If you change one element, the entire system shifts. So if your internal system is defined by, say, fear, then your external world is going to reflect that.
And the sources use these simple visual metaphors to make that point.
They do. The first one is the classic 6 versus 9 image. You've got two people standing on opposite sides of a number drawn on the ground.
One sees a 6, the other sees a 9.
And they are both right from their perspective. They're looking at the exact same data, but experiencing contradictory truths.
So if your earth element is stressed out with worry, you're always going to see the 6 foot of risk and threat.
Yes. Your internal imbalance is literally the filter for your external reality. You can't even see the 9 of opportunity, even though it's right there.
And the other image they use is even more ambiguous. It's the one with the bars, where one person sees 4 bars and the other sees 3.
The point of both images is that if objective reality is this flexible, then our own subjective elemental state is the only real constant we have. It's the filter.
So if my wood energy, my I think intelligence, is rigid with anger, my reality is going to be full of conflict.
But if you apply that strategic correction, if you bring in metal sensitivity to cool it down, you shift your internal viewpoint. You stop arguing about whether it's a 3 or a 4.
And you see, the whole setup is what's causing the problem. You change the reality you perceive.
That's the synthesis. Your subjective experience of reality mirrors your elemental balance. Change one, you change the other. You're not just changing your mood, you are fundamentally altering the world you experience.
So to wrap this up, we've covered this incredibly detailed map for physical, mental, and emotional health.
Using these cycles of creation and control, and the deepest insight is that direct link between our chronic emotions, like anxiety or rage, and our physical bodies, the spleen, the liver.
And the tool for change isn't just willpower. It's the targeted deployment of an opposing positive mindset based on that elemental logic.
And the sources put this idea of alternative realities right next to that need for a perspective shift, like the 6 and the 9. So if our internal state, our elements, defines our experience.
Then here's the final thought for you to take away. If you can manage a chronic pattern, let's say depression, which is metal, by specifically applying love wisdom, which is water, and that actually shifts your entire internal dynamic according to these laws.
Then doesn't that elemental reorganization essentially open up a completely different, healthier, more functional alternative reality for you to live in?
Can we actually engineer a new consciousness just by applying these ancient strategic emotional controls?
The map suggests the potential is already inside us.
That is definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the elements, emotion, and the power of perspective. We hope you'll explore these concepts even further.